Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Can It Take a K26, the show where we take a variety of blasters and see if they can be upgraded using a K26 spring. I am your host, Captain Xavier, and keeping in the theme from last time of checking out bolt-action blasters, I have two more today. Our first contestant is the super power Pliasi pellet gun looking thing. This was sent to me by a fan and has a fascinating priming mechanism. It is bolt action, but as you can see, it's not up here where you usually see it. It's way down here. It does actually have a lock, so the trigger locks unless the bolt is completely returned to its resting position. And you can see the spring back there. So I'm not entirely sure how it operates, but I think it actually is essentially direct plunger, unlike the indirect ones that we saw in some of the previous blasters of this size, which may or may not be good news for us. So let's get this thing open, see if it'll take a K26. Okay, so it turns out it's a good old-fashioned reverse plunger blaster, which is why they were able to get it in line like that. That is interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, let's see if by any miracle K26 just happens to fit. No. No, it will not. So K26 won't fit over the plunger tube, so it's not going to work. Wonder, is this the same size? Yeah. So, no, this thing won't take a K26, but I am curious if I have anything of a slightly larger diameter that might. So this one's a little too big. All right. To the big bin. Oh, random springs. A Centurion spring fits, but we'll never get enough compression with that. Looks like we're getting a nope. That is the downside to the reverse plunger blasters, is that it requires a very specific spring size. With regular direct plunger, you can get away with a lot more variance in the size of the spring as long as it is smaller than the inside diameter of the plunger tube and larger than the outside diameter of the plunger rod. Any spring will fit. Whether it'll get enough compression, that's a completely different story, but it will at least fit. Okay, so let's see if we can get this thing put back together. The catch mechanism is actually looks fairly impressive, so if you could get a heavier spring, doesn't leave you a whole lot of room for compression, though there is some room for a little bit of extra compression, just not a whole lot. So it has potential. I just don't appear to have the right spring for the job here today. Let's get this thing fully buttoned up, but first, a word from our sponsor.
Sunscreen.
Alright, it is back together. This thing has no AR to speak of, so if you really wanted to upgrade it, it'd be fairly easy to brass it. It definitely needs it. It has very little power as it is. Being reverse plunger, there's just not a lot you're ever going to be able to do with it, which is sad because it's nice that it's bolt action that doesn't come back over the top of your hand, but mod potential on it is limited. I'm sure if you could find the right spring, you could make some improvements to it, and possibly brassing the barrel or at least improving the breech would give you something. But yeah, no K26. On to the next contestant. All of the K26 used on this series was donated by Out of Darts. Check out his new website at outofdarts.com for all your Nerf modding needs. Our next contestant is Andrea's Rifle from the Walking Dead series. People have been asking me to get the Walking Dead line for a while, and I finally got my hands on one. Found it at Goodwill. It was on sale, which is lovely. Still in the box, still has its darts, still has its magazine. So yeah, let's get this thing open and take a look at it. Well, I have successfully figured out why it wasn't at Goodwill. Or why it was at Goodwill. It's busted. It won't catch. And sometimes it won't even let you prime it. So that's unfortunate. The neat thing is that it is essentially a magazine-fed Predator, or I think Predator. Optionally, the Covert Squad blaster. Yeah, very similar back end, similar ergonomics, where you can't really prime it left-handed because the bolt comes back over where your hand would be. That's not a problem when you're right-handed because you'd be pulling it back this way, so you'd be letting go right there, whereas if you're left-handed and you try to prime with your right hand, that's gonna be a problem. Anyway, the Covert Squad could take a K26, so hopefully this thing can, and even more hopefully, it's not as completely messed up inside as I'm afraid it might be, in which case I'll be able to prove whether the K26 fits, but I might not be able to prove whether or not the blaster works on account of it being busted. But let's get this thing open and see if it can take a K26. Rather annoyingly, rather than the barrel cap being what's glued on and thus making it hard to get open, this time they decided to make it the stock cap that is glued on and thus making it hard to get open. Got it. All right. Let's take a look and see what we've got going on in here. If we can't figure out why it doesn't want to catch. I suspect the plunger rod may have been in there upside down. Now, can it take a K26? It will fit. No surprises there. Seriously though, where does this part go? Maybe? I mean, it fits. Sure. We'll put it there. See what happens. We're very, very scientific on this show. All right then. Let's try to figure out exactly how much compression we can get away with. Alright, well, I got the K26 in there. Now we just need to button up and see if there's any chance that it will catch. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Supposedly.
I got nothing. Alright, let's see if he'll catch. I may put it in upside down. No, I did not. Just barely not getting enough compression. So let's take a coil off and see if that'll do it. So we're going to do two things to try to ensure that this thing catches better. The first is we are going to increase the catch spring, as it is not terribly impressive. In fact, it's very not impressive. It's actually a very weak spring. So that is definitely part of the issue here. And the other issue is that the catch does seem to be poorly molded and is slightly sloped in the wrong direction. So using a triangular file so I can get a greater than 90-degree cut. I'm going to flatten and actually sharpen the catch. So I don't know if you're going to be able to tell, but now instead of being slightly rounded forward, it's actually slightly angled back. So that should help with that. We're going to do the same thing to the catch itself. And by the way, if you modify your blaster to have a much heavier spring load, this is probably something you're going to need to do as routine maintenance on your blaster anyway. Because the heavier spring load will eventually wear the plastic down just from use. Alright. It does now get enough compression. It does appear to catch. I make no promises, though. We'll find out here in a second. Alright, let's see if it'll catch. It caught! I was not prepared for that. I don't have a magazine loaded. And now. There we go. You really got to pull on the trigger, but it works. I think I may have sharpened the catch a little bit too much. Like I said, it'll eventually wear down and become easier to release. But for now, you got to mean it. All right, well, there it is. That is a yes for Andrea's rifle from The Walking Dead. One of the downsides to this particular blaster is that it isn't actually inherently compatible with Nerf magazines. They will fit into the magazine well, but they don't go far enough up to actually catch or to line up with the bolt. And it's because of this lip that Nerf magazines have. So you could either take that lip off, or you can Dremel out the bottom of the magazine well just a little bit in order to allow it to, basically you put the magazine in as far as it'll go, mark where it's hitting, and just Dremel that down on, about a ½ an inch, and then it will in fact be able to take Nerf magazines perfectly fine. On the other hand, get yourself the 20-round worker ones, or not worker, Busby ones. Do workers have that lip? Do workers have that lip? Yeah, same problem. Worker has a much subtler lip, but there is enough of a lip there that it prevents it from going in as far as it needs to go in. But if you were to, again, you'd have to Dremel out less with the worker one. Just the corners, really. Just a little bit of material would need to come off for workers to work. But that is really neither here nor there. It can take a K26, which makes for a lovely, heavy-powered, magazine-fed bolt-action blaster if you're looking for something along those lines. A lot of people asked if the covert squad could be made to take a magazine, and anything can be done, but it would not be easy, nor would it be clean, whereas you could just go with this, and then your problems would be solved. Definitely would benefit from at least a sleeper brass breech. If you wanted to go with a full brass breech, I don't know that the plunger system, even with K26, really has the air volume or the seals to deal with a long brass breech. You might be able to go with a short full brass breech, but what's the point of that? Anyway, yeah, I like it. I think it's neat. I may have to paint this one up just because there's already so much orange on it. I think it would be fairly simple to take all the orange bits off, paint the rest of it black, maybe paint these parts orange as well. I think that could be a neat little blaster. Definitely needs an extended stock. Like most Busby stuff, the stock is too short because it's meant for little kids, which is fair. But the way it's designed, because the end cap is permanent, I think it would actually be fairly simple to add some bolts or some bars or something and just extend it out and then put a pad on, or, you know, make something out of wood that then screws onto this back cap. There's a number of different ways you could fairly easily do it, I feel, which would look pretty good. So, there you have it. Andrea's rifle can take a K26. Let's recap. All right, for those of you just tuning in or who just skipped to the end to see the results, that was a no for the super power Pliacy bullet gun thing. Turns out it's reverse plunger, so it could be upgraded if you could find the right spring, but other than that, not going to be a whole lot you could do with it. But that was a decided yes for Andrea's rifle from the Walking Dead series. It is same general internals as the Covert Squad, little bit different, but for the most part exactly, you know, similar concept, and so it was able to take a K26. Definitely needs a better breech, definitely needs a longer stock, but if you're looking for a good bolt action blaster that takes a magazine that has, you know, these vague shell form factor, this is the one for you. So needs a little bit of modification to the magwell to be able to take Nerf magazines, but that's easily done. And yeah, I plan to hopefully eventually do something with this one, just because I really like the ergonomics of it. So there are a couple of Walking Dead blasters out there that I still need to get my hands on. I wish I had just gone ahead and grabbed the entire line when Toys R Us was going out of sale, or out of business, but I didn't, and now they're, you know, harder to find. But this one was found at Goodwill, so I assume the rest will eventually show up there as well. So when that happens, I will do those. Next 2 episodes, I'm planning to do Star Wars stuff. I've got 4 Star Wars blasters lined up that, one, I wasn't expecting to get my hands on. Actually, none of them I was expecting to get my hands on. So they all were given to me. One is being lent, and the other 3 were given. So those will be fun. So stay tuned for that. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions for future episodes, go ahead and put those down in the comments. And as always, thank you guys for watching.